The first 2 minutes and 20 seconds or so are gonna be the Twitter that I put up there that dropped the seeds for shells. I've been finding so many shells in my office. When you hear this sound, just know that I'm gonna chime in and say something and maybe even fade out the trigger's trauma, because you just have to get it out until you don't have to get it out anymore. I don't need to get it out because I know what happened. I'm no longer in shock. And I'll be demonstrating or modeling the strategies I think that can help anyone make sure that trauma doesn't settle in. My triggers are lying to my face, lying on paper, like a medical record that's completely false because they're covering their butts, or when you don't submit an incident report. So you're trying to create a less violent environment for a child who needs a consequence, because that's our job as teachers and educators and administrators who work in schools. We need to give that child structure and an expectation and a way to meet that expectation. I consider that basic goal setting. So I'm going to talk about education in the way that I used to with people that used to talk to me about education, but I don't think they mean it the same way that I do. Anyway, I'm going to share the 2 minutes and 20 seconds because I think it's the clearest I've ever been. And then we'll go into the get it out. I'm going to also take notes at numbers when I listen so you can follow along in the description part. So it makes a little more sense. All right, I've been taking voice samples and writing samples. And soon I will be letting this office know, this healthcare company know that they cannot have this person contact me because they're dishonest and they're emotional. I have this methodology for PTSD I record. He blew up. He yelled at me. And I just said, I keep hearing it and I cannot live and be successful listening to this gentleman freak out. Put the methodology in my medical records. That's all I want. I think I figured out how to end PTSD. And I'm going to credit Northwestern Memorial Hospital because they started out with one thing. But then when they are the problem, because I said, well, this is wise mind. You are the problem. They really couldn't handle it. Thank you. All right, when you hear the chime, don't forget, that's me saying, oh, that's a trigger. I was going to get it out, but I don't need to anymore. And now we're introducing television. Okay, the first thing I watched was a recommendation from someone quite a while ago. I'm really glad they recommended it. Man, it's really cool to see someone who kind of represents you. Thank you. I have this cat, Ivy. She has one eye and she was named Ivy before I got her. I had a cat in high school named Ivy. She always wanted to get out of the house, and the first time she did, she didn't make it across the street safely. Anyway, without this other cat, Neptune, I would never have had Ivy because my allergies got better. In fact, Neptune is an essential part of this story. I can't share my story without sharing him. And why the words were, if you ever talk about my family, I'm gonna... Well, guess what? He's not part of your family anymore. I don't have any intention of sharing who these people are, but I do have a methodology to end PTSD, and you do have to get very close to that edge. Where you're so close you look over the cliff and you look down and see just how far it is. And that's the fear, because this person was very specific about what they would do if I ever told. Anyway, I'm going to talk about the Chicago Parks District, Chicago Police Department, Chicago Board of Ed, and multiple other companies, industries, charities, individuals, what I like to call tag twats, so that we know tag twats are not good, tag teams are good, that helped write this methodology to end PTSD. Shells are everywhere. Let's get rid of shells, okay? When I said I want a wedding that's rustic and woodsy, because I'm being asked, because I'm having a wedding all of a sudden, and I was convinced. What were the words used to convince me? So here's the memory on replay, both verbal and audio. Whoopsies. Both audio and visual. As I do this, I'm going to also write at the same time. So I actually need to take a little break, and I'll come back to this in a second. Just saying it creates all this adrenaline, and I don't move if I have this adrenaline. Got it? Make it all go out. And then begin. Somebody's actually making conversation with me. This is like a first, so I'm definitely paying attention. This isn't just the same blah, 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 blah that comes out of you to sort of get through the moment. Has anyone been in conversations like that? They don't seem real. You can't talk about certain things and you're warned. Careful, they might say something really strange to you. So I was asked a question about woodsy and rustic and got shells. It dawned on me, well, it's because you spend your whole time picking up shells. You showed me the boxes and boxes and boxes. Because there's no hobby. This is the importance of having a hobby. Now I'm going to write those memories on replay, because when somebody doesn't have something to do, they can go a little crazy. Thank you. Crazy about grandkids. Yikes, what are we talking about? Why didn't you tell her? That's right, we had the story of the cat. If you were able to catch this online, talk about a minute to say because there's 1 minute in video when you record. Okay, so that's trying to hold on to a thought, a memory, a reminder, because there's all these different rules with all these different spaces online. Just trying to figure out if any of them can help end trauma.
Wow, words are so much. Love letter written too. Let me get this out quickly. This company, The Body Shop, is British, better standards, higher than the U.S. And the letter E, because I never lost my middle name because of the story that my parents attached, so that I would never forget. Always reign.
What a great strategy to cause lifelong harm by purposely re-triggering. There's clearly trauma and good memories or sad memories you associate. What am I trying to say? Let's go to the lip gloss. That lip gloss, asking Catherine for a lip gloss, wasn't that so bizarre? Who does that? I don't do that with any of my friends. I'm sorry, you don't have your own? Here, let me give you a new one. There, take that. Here, pick your own color, whatever. Backup lip glosses. Do you think there's purposely re-triggering there? And the diagnosis is called savior complex. I know because I was in his therapy appointments.
The very first show, the very first show I choose as I'm organizing the classroom, because they're on the 999 planet. I guess it is live.
What am I listening to? Seriously, this TV thing?
And I think it's a travesty
Siri,
and miscarriage
pause.
of justice.
In other words,
Do you know how many miscarriages of justices have happened just in the beginning bit when they said you can't include all the past, prior, all this stuff in my life, showing me how people try to beat the system. Oh, I don't want a psychological evaluation. Don't get that psychological evaluation because they're going to call you crazy. And I had to ask a doctor. Do you hang out? I mean, I'm assuming you're married. You have a wedding ring. As I listen to this now, what I'm realizing is the first step is to just get it out, because if you are able to listen to it, you can put the location back. So this is talking to a doctor at UIC who doesn't understand difference. Well, isn't that the whole point? Your expertise means something when you write it in a medical record. So what is it that they're trying to achieve? They're trying to figure out a diagnosis that everyone will accept that you're crazy. So I'll accept it. I went through a temporary mental illness and suicide that went on for a number of years. That's not normal to not want to live. So let's explore this deeper. Why? Well, I can tell you why. I told the doctors why. It was them. And they didn't like that response. But I did say, well, I am doing Wise Mind, the very thing you told me to do, which is to address the issue. Make a decision that's best for you. And the best decision is to confront the fear, because if I walk away from this and not bring it up to you, I leave with suicide. That's contradictions. Lying to my face, lying in medical records, lying in incident reports, or reading the incident reports but not submitting them and creating a lie to the autism specialist. But then I asked her, well, don't you have the incident reports? Oh, I left them in the car. You did? They covered up the entire thing. They didn't think it was that severe, and yet all the teachers are talking to me about their anxiety, their mental health issues. So I absorbed it briefly, temporarily, and now I'm giving it back to them. I went through a temporary mental illness, and I got on Facebook because the realization is that it has to go somewhere. Where do you contain the quantity of PTSD? Well, I did so online, and the original triggers were the things I normally do, like listen to American politics, read the paper, read it in the morning, would get up early, spend an extra half hour reading and having a really nice breakfast, because that's what I put emphasis in. Would rather spend that time than sleeping. And you might be different. Perhaps you prefer to sleep. Anyway, we're introducing TV now. Hey Siri, play In the Future When All's Well.
Now playing In the Future When All's Well by
Hey Siri, lower volume. So that's YouTube. Anyway, we're introducing TV now because as I'm triggering from American politics, mostly from the Trump administration, but also realizing that a lot of people didn't care about disability and kids with difference. It doesn't have to be a political thing, but it ended up being one, because 4/5 is the date of the assault and the wedding of the century. 4/5. And who else is 4/5? Think about it. Sometimes there's a purpose for lots of stuff. You have to just be open and read the signs. So have you ever, and I had to ask a doctor, do you hang out? I mean, I'm assuming you're married. So have you ever hung out with your wife's friends? Let's say at a Sunday brunch after church. This is how fucking women talk. You're telling me I'm manic because I have passion for the topic that I chose to study in, which is special education.
Mental retardation, and this court will do that.
That's what you used to call them, mental retardation. That wasn't that long ago. And if you were a child with special needs, oh my goodness, just know Neptune's previous family could not let it go. But But I kept saying, well, I never would have known that. So isn't it kind of fun if you do go through special ed and nobody even thought that you had special needs at some point? Isn't that the goal? Because it's so horrible to be different. That's what I got from all of these industries and groups trying to make a statement, trying to wiggle away from the actual reality of what happened, which was children with special needs, federal rights being violated repeatedly in an entire community. Family, friends, these were the words they used. Differentiation, not just being okay with it, but learning as they go that they can get away with it. That's why in the third year, they denied kids a classroom and children with special needs, federal rights being violated repeatedly in an entire community. Family, friends, these were the words they used. Differentiation. That's why in the third year, they denied kids a classroom and nobody denied. Civil injustices continue to happen because we're idiots. So why don't we grow the fuck up and realize that we're only here on earth for a very short time. So what's your purpose? I thought mine was to get back to my community because both my parents were fucking scared for me because I was born a girl in this world. So what I'm going to talk about is stuff that's special. This stuff is getting I was a special educator. I'm your special friend. Is that what the word is? I can do anything for you. I can vouch for you. I can absolutely get you out of trouble with the people that matter the most, people that have to believe in you. Suicide or what are we discussing here? Because that's the problem. If you are incapable, constantly sugarcoating our mental health issues in our country, take a sound walk with me and pay attention to the noises around you. I don't share where I am anymore in the world. I gave that a go. All the truck drivers who listen, because I get it. The only people that will understand what I'm saying are the ones that have the stamina to listen to me the entire time of this episode. They're all episodes. They're when I was triggering. And instead of self-harming, killing myself, going to the most terrifying place there is, which is their world. I'm just laying out what they said to me. A disagreement in my family is a confrontation. I'm like, okay, so what's so bad about it? Is that what you're trying to say? And that's why the grandma is worth how much? The way these people talk about but the word been triggering me for the last 2 hours. So that's why TV is super triggering, just for the words alone. And the topic, I never watched what happened to this thing because I was not allowed to watch it. I was like really young. So we never had this TV on. No tabloid TV. I remember it was Wimbledon, the Olympics, the evening news, Saturday Night Live, and that's it. And then there's situations where you can't even say their name because it's so special. But you know who I'm talking about. Because of the AIDS stuff. Because they were trying to tell me AIDS is not scary. The best thing you can do is say hello and hug someone who has AIDS if they want a hug. Special. I'm going to use that word a lot. All right, so this is live. This is PTSD. Please, thank you. Stop, live. Disordered to my face. All right, the origin of that is several people. And thank you to the recommendations of the person who suggested Soho House as a good networking place. But I had heard this before about East Bank Club. Confront the fear. I did it. Stand up. The safest place, I thought, to tell people to get the fuck away from me. This is funny. This is hilarious that I'm doing this. And that's the problem. You ruined it, dude. You created my open mic where I got to say everything because stand-up that already existed didn't work. Shocking. Stand-up was the environment you can say anything in. The only environment for me to say, don't sexualize me. And what do? Sexualize me. I have to go up there and say, I'm a survivor. I've gone to these survivor open mics or survivor stand-up. But I gotta be honest, it's not the environment I want to be in too. I'll explain that as well when we get to stand-up. Stand up for disability. That was the message on the bus when I went there the first time. I remember thinking, I'm a snowboarder. This is just snowboarding. And I was testing if I was nauseous. Also, didn't want to be on the bus because of that teacher, the one on the list to testify. Because she literally sat there and explained all her anxiety to me again. So now I have to hear it before work. Okay. Then I started avoiding the bus. That's why I was walking everywhere, commuting. And then when I headed north on a slight angle, I walked by this apartment and boom, the triggers were like, wow. All right. That one gets a further deep investigation because it's definitely on replay, or was until October, November 2023 because I confronted it. Thank you. All right, one audience member who can totally ruin a joke. No, thank you. And alliances and gossiping. Seems like a lot of waste of time. If you have a platform like that, why don't you talk about things like no waste and cool electronic stuff that gets people interested in technology to find normal technology people, not the predatory ones. And this is all created from this TV show. The episode's called The Cycle of Abuse. It's the conclusion of something that happened in real life that I don't remember because I was not allowed to watch this. It was about penis.
You can only
But because of the nature and desire of wanting to change policy for kids with special needs who will be dependent on people that will absolutely abuse them. Cycles of abuse I saw through healthcare, which I was never supposed to see because I was
was way above average in fitness. So we're going to talk about physical therapy, occupational therapy, and all the things I learned from Eastern and Western medicine. Thanks for your existence, because without you, I would never have recovered. So which is better? And I'm going to bring a doctor whose name I will share, because quite frankly, you had the opportunity to be the first one to end their PTSD by just being normal, but you didn't, because you lied twice to me and you had insight. I'm like, I'm not even sure what that is. I plus with that medicine, because I realized I cohort I was with. I don't think I could have people that were not. I don't know what my issue is. What are you talking about? He's telling me about how women throw themselves at him, because that's the equal impact. So those who can do that kind of work, good for you. Those who are effective, give them policies that make sense. Give them all the reimbursements they need, not just cabs. Like, you lose a whole day waiting around to be on call, and so forth, so on. And you shut the door and chastise me for making a decision that I quite frankly should have told you off. Because I said, call the hospital. Why? If she's asleep. I'm waiting for her to get her pickup from someone I discussed and had to convince to come pick her up. A family member. How sad is that? That's the sad thing. That would never happen in my family. So that's another positive thing. Clearly, someone who doesn't have in their life can be affected by trauma and not have the proper support system. So who will be the proper support system until that does click in? What just has to click in? That we're not that special, people. Just do what's best. And you do reflect who you are on the inside, sugar baby wannabe. Sorry, girl, but you're popping up next. All right, friendships, because we're both Italian. That's a great way to get to know people culturally. Thank you for our friendship. But also, it does not mean that person is 100% a real goddamn person. Apparently, they are a sugar baby. It's funny to even say the word. All right. And then Matt Getz happened. And I'm sorry, but that is human trafficking. And that is a topic I know very well through the church. Like I said, you don't sugarcoat our mental health issues. What the hell is going on? You can't traffic people, make them your sex slaves. That to me is disturbing. Why? Never get into someone's car that you don't know very, very well. So that's the rule. Do you know how many women I know have gotten into strangers' car for just a ride? Blows my mind. So I'm going to make it very strangers' car, because I'm not going to goddamn worry myself. We're actual friends. You will never get in.
The word was boundary and boundary waters. So this connects to a person who shared with me some tips on how they dealt with their mental health, and I thought that was really great. Good for you. Old friend, bumped into them at Bucktown Pub. And Bucktown Pub was the place where this charity working with veterans wanted to meet. Okay, so I'm thinking, you want to meet at a pub? Okay, get out of your house, the things that motivate you. Well, I'm going to learn about PTSD, this diagnosis that I just received. I'm going to help veterans somehow. That's where they wanted to meet, and what an odd experience. I let the owner, director, CEO, whoever he is, founder, what had happened? There's no response. I'm like, I just told you, it was a really odd meeting. I didn't get the information I requested. I don't think it was serious. I don't think they took it serious. But I bumped into this old friend living in Moline, so wasn't even in the city anymore. I thought, wow, how random. I've not been out of my house in how many years? And that's why everything is meant to happen for a purpose. And I was able to, on a Post-it note, pretty much end a lot of their trauma. I was pretty impressed with myself. I didn't expect to see them. And it was really quick. But also, I had simply said no to something. I'm very proud of you. I think it caused heartache. And at the same time, it was the best. Wrote it. And I said, I need to let you know there's a reason why I bumped into you. Remember that whole thing with your mental health issues and so on and so forth? I just want you to know how proud I am. Clearly had a breaking point. It was really sad what happened. That's an example of getting close to the edge. Saying it without really saying it. And yet, do I have to say it? It's not my place to say. It's what happened with their friend group. And that's why I just know when this person popped up and I saw them at Bucktown Pub, I knew every opportunity you get to make things right. I'm so sorry I had to say no. But no, not after all that. This is related to another trigger, otherwise I would not be sharing it. So I'm bearing it. So it's confusing. Nobody wants to understand it. It's too hard to understand. Well, yeah, I don't really want to share this. And that's what this method is about. Thank you to the people that have been curious and have asked questions and have forced me to answer and to regain the word boundary. Because you need to set boundaries for people. These are words I needed to not relearn necessarily, but the way I was re-exposed to them were through these memories and the boundary waters. It was awesome because I've never thought of this person again until this moment. The boundary waters and the use of nature. And thanks for sharing. I don't know how people get through their mental health crises, especially before, well, this was way back in 2001, too, when I first moved to Chicago. Anyway, thank you to the boundary waters and recognizing nature is so important for our mental health. Maybe that's a place to investigate some and maybe even go to. Thank you. That got it out of me. I don't share any of this This has been private. I gave it to the people that needed it, my doctors and healthcare, until they literally told me and showed me how the school successfully covered up their violations against kids with special needs and how little in society we care about these groups. And that's what I'm not able to manage. My body is not happy. So we're going to try and do something about it, because I'm not going to die over what they did. And thank you to these groups showing me the non-response, the change of narrative, the character slandering, of course. I mean, that's fine. I don't care at this point. I just know that when you experience something, and you have religion to tell you, hey, that violence, those actions, that exposure to the worst behaviors in a school system and a healthcare system were purposeful, but also had a reason, then there is something magical that happens. Not that you're protected or you feel protected, but you believe in something greater than yourself. And that, I think, is the purpose of this story. Thank you.
Dangerous card, because I'm not going to goddamn worry myself. Got it? Done. That's why I don't talk to this one woman. Sorry, but that was the last straw for me. It's really uncomfortable to say. That's why I'm going to do it passive-aggressively, do it publicly, and that way if you ever hear it, maybe you already know. I think I told you once, like, that's really dangerous. Please don't do that again. And then you did it again. It's like, okay, then don't tell me that you did it. How about that? You don't have to share it. And then it's like, I see it. So then it's like, all right, what is going on? Is this just like the way things are? I don't think so. All right, I was concussed at a school, so I wonder if some of this teacher stuff is because of location of injury, because I do flash back to education quite frequently. Funny, because that's the conversation I had with someone over and over about the height of their child and people assuming just ill-behaved, the behavioral issue. So that's everything in my life, a behavioral issue. It's not. A behavior is created for a reason. I'm a behavioralist. This is the stuff I know well. All right, I would have just shared it with the kids and the parents and the faculty and the people that needed to know, but instead I'm doing my third and final curriculum live. All right, stupid is a bad word, and I'm going to model everything I remember in education thus far, because like I said, it's the final time I deal with this topic, because DePaul University totally showed me how worthless my degree is. I can teach anyone, anything, anytime. Isn't that the best part? But I don't want to, okay? That's why I'm saying when you can walk away from something and say thank you, that's the best way to do it. So thanks, education. Without you, I never would have stayed in the city and bought my house. Done. So that's one part. So the people that are worried or not sure how I paid for my home. Well, first of all, I got a huge discount as a first-time home buyer. I had to take some classes and had to meet with some people and get some letters signed, but it was really easy. The community around me was extremely supportive. It was Rogers Park in Chicago, and of course, Cabrini Green, where I currently reside. Done. So I'm not going to give up my neighborhood due to fear. Now I'm done with this podcast. Going backwards in time, I'm going to upload the others, recognizing I'm saying names. So I'm going to go through and try to delete them. I'm also very concussed and I make mistakes often. So whoopsies, it's not my intention to ever share anybody. So if I do accidentally, that just means I'm super stressed out. And that's it. I choose not to die over them. So I did reach out privately to contain privately with one act of kindness, which is basically just take the call. That's it. And it would have been done. I'm that easy. Perfect. I don't have to talk to you, because do I want to share this with you? Of course not. It's my private life too. And that's it. But you didn't do it. So it teaches me, come on, it's so simple. The people with real trauma get it. That's why it's really easy to spot the fakers. Okay. I'm not sure what to call my third and final curriculum. First one is multimodal literacy with a passion. I'm using the Wilson method that I learned at McPherson. Done. Second is an advocacy group created by a paraprofessional and a teacher pointing the finger at each other and refusal to sit down as a trio until parent conferences were necessary for me to explain why it's better that they're with me, because I'm actually going to teach them something. I hate to say it, but doing the classwork showed me that just got to do the adaptations and work well with these kids, because it helps everyone. This is a very stressed out, vigorous academic environment to make sure they get into high school, right? Well, let's just make it easier. I heard how easy it is for parents to request an easier grading scale for science, something that after COVID and through COVID we realized we kind of need. That's a necessity for every child to know. The next Einstein could be on death's door because of poverty. That is unacceptable. That's the second curriculum I created, the advocacy group. That's where I realized my students were being bullied by the teachers and the administration. They're not doing their jobs to teach them and regulate self-control. Okay, let's practice. And then my third and final curriculum, which I said will be live.
done. It's just my life. So it's transitioning from teaching to doing what I realize is necessary for people to come together and have a platform, and also say thank you for those that gave me the warnings. The first being my principal, who warned us about the parents. Don't let them control the curriculum with money, because then they think they own it. Like slavery, American history. And we learn it best through children's literature, so that's obviously Mark Twain. Who knows the grown-up British literature equivalent of slavery? Anyone? All right, that's what we'll pick up next time. Actually, we won't, because I'm letting this go. It's already been archived in my Instagram. 10,000 posts, we'll say. That's not a lot, but within those, there's a bunch more. And you can see how I progress monitored. And the writing sample. That's where this ends up, because he sent me the draft thing. My house party. Thanks for reminding me. Gee, thanks. So this person was there. I don't have a complex. Who is this person? I have some questions for you. Like I said, we could have kept this private, you motherfucker. But apparently, that's what that shit was that you left on my bike seat, you sick fuck. When to say, okay, I bullied her enough. Starting with that birthday party. Hey, when you have a gun pointing at your face, and I know how to trigger you will remember that day. Because it's Chicago. Super sensory. Just whatever pops up that day. I'm going to be so there's a lunatic multiple topics connected to chronic pain. Police are going to go first, because they are terrible. Who doesn't take a police report, and who doesn't want to investigate? I'm like, I can give you names. They won't give me the number of the person to contact, but that's the problem. I'm saying, well, this has nothing to do with you, but who worked here? Why is there so many staff changeovers? And that's what created the question of staff. And if all of this monologuing was to get to that point, then maybe that's the point where we pick up. I tripped across this inquiry, quite frankly, looking at something else. So, hello. I like that I trip a lot. It's not a problem for me, except if you're near dangerous things. So, that's it. You need to know if you're unsafe because of vertigo, vestibular, and clearly freezing because people are trying to purposely confuse you now. So, just interact less. That's the goal. And I already interacted did the most I would ever do in my entire lifetime. That's it. I said. For a very short temporary time in my life, I'm not going to be myself. Everything opposite, just to get the full view of what they're talking about.
Whoa,
I know more about you than you know about you. Like, I don't think so. The only thing you know is you're not being weird. And that's why I created restorative justice. Oh my God, curriculum for someone being kind of gross. All right, it's captured. And that's the origin of the first world. All right, I'm creating a first world video game. All right, it's not really. It's going to be that I didn't think about. Have not thought about. Seriously, I was. But the concept is that. That's the funny thing. I'm creating this landscape, not able to write, and that is the goal. Why? Because I liked it. I remember writing these IEPs, just like papers in college, really fast. Wasn't hard for me at all because I listened to what the teacher wanted to hear. I regurgitated some of it, but also researched, and along the way found things I really, really liked. So FFS, SS, whatever girl, the lady in the UK who invited me out there, no thank you. That was weird because you're sharing how much you have been loving my advocacy while getting the dish on somebody that I knew way back when, back in the day. Somebody who is defenseless, but also you recognize probably took advantage to some degree, but I've moved on from that. That's not the point. You know, life is short enough as it is. So you're being contradicting, and that's always going to be a PTSD trigger. So how to manage that? That's a hard one. What you can do is seriously count, and if you get to a certain number where you're like, well, that's enough, then confront the person, because it's not a disagreement the disagreement is not a confrontation, and who cares if it is? A confrontation is not always a confrontation. Sometimes it's necessary dialogue, because you're forcing somebody to explain themselves, and that's the only thing, because I had not needed explanations in the past, but now I do, because it's like, I don't want to have this icky feeling about things. And also, people really don't know conversation, physically, how many more times. And that's another recognition through trauma that I realized, because you listen to homeless people, they really do repeat stories, but do you blame them? I mean, come on. So giving them new experiences is actually a very pivotal part of the not-for-profit, which is baking cookies and sharing them and having conversations with people just about stuff and showing them the advocacy that I like to do, which is reminding people they matter through home-cooked meals to get through this concept of not losing cooking and baking every day, because I'm cutting and burning myself. And now Northwestern Memorial Hospital is triggering terribly. Okay, now I am done. Holy crap.
Okay, and that's the first letter. I'm not going to obviously lose the letter T, but if you are to just say the sound, do you hear it? To me, it's really painful to say. It probably doesn't matter to you, but I hear it in my ears. It's still ringing. I hear it in the back of my throat. I literally hear it like at the top of my head, that ow. And it's like little spears. I don't know. It's not good nerve pain. So, of course, I would avoid that letter sound. And I think that's all I was doing. Losing language and avoiding language is feeling similar, but I don't think I was losing it. I think it just did not have access. I did not have access as others did not have access. All right, back to TV. Thank you.
This was a long one, but I just needed to remove as much media as I could. The thing on my computer was doing that memory thing. And again, this is just to keep a record in the iCloud. I'm sure I'll come across it again. And as people participate, I don't know if they will, but they will notify me that dinging sound. I still toggle between on and off. It's too much. And then I can just keep moving through this. Like I stated, advocacy is a dialogue, not a monologue, and I do feel that adrenaline is finally out. We're going to stop here on the British cat Larry LAbiak. That's obviously MCA, and that conversation on replay, which I think I'm going to write now. Yep, I think so, because that la keeps popping up. In addition, British and blood, the importance of blood, and that's why I think Doc X is popping up, not just for the relationship connection to Yvonne Curran, but the comments made about the importance of blood and having a cultural connection to your heritage and people, which I absolutely understand. That's fine. But then when you also use your culture, heritage, and people when they are bigoted to say, well, that's just part of me as well, I'm like, that doesn't really work. Aren't you a little more elevated than that? And that's fine if that's culturally what you're against, but you don't live in your homeland. Anyway, blood. I finally got there because somebody had spoken to me very specifically about blood, and I thought, wow, I never thought of it like that. Most men are going to want to have biological children. And that's why I figured out what I wanted in life and told people exactly what it was. So I've been modeling conversations with Neptune's previous family. Year one, there was this Christmas onesie and someone had a meltdown. Anyway, if you're watching the visuals on the YouTube, I'll include the link below because it's kind of cool. You'll see that I'm talking about the very same thing, how to make this trauma three-dimensional so you can physically do something with it, because isn't that the self-harm translated into something real? Thanks, Ivy. Anyway, you can see the 2 dates. So they're writing samples. You can see the improvement. Thank you. And thank you to the person who asked. You got to ask the question, make my brain think differently, and help me rewire it, if you don't mind. Thank you very much.